Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. Please check out our website, hollywoodmatrimony.com. Go find us on Facebook, Instagram, X, Blue Sky, and Hive.
I like it every time we talk about it. You have to still try to figure. You think you just have a repetitive. In your
Well,
brain
and
at this
because
point.
I think Instagram, but it's not Instagram is, which is the one that's not Instagram anymore? Or X, what is that?
Twitter is X.
Sorry, I don't know. Just call it Twitter. I'm so confused.
Doesn't matter. Anyway, this time we're going to be focusing on Speak No Evil, the latest remake of the 2022 Danish film of the same name.
Yes.
And as usual, before we start, let's watch that trailer.
Let's go.
And we're not going to watch this trailer because everyone's tired of this trailer.
What was it that they said that?
Somebody said they were going to vote to make it permanently play this trailer forever. So if you're somebody who goes to the movies very often, this trailer has been playing for months with every single movie you watch.
The first time I saw the trailer, I'm like, this is going to be good. The second time, like, we got to see this. After that, I'm like, oh my gosh, stop playing this trailer.
Now we do know that part of that joke is also the studios, when they play these things, they look at the average person does not go to the movie that much. But there are people like ourselves and people that we know, and they're all within kind of the movie fandom. They go to the movies every weekend.
We're there every weekend.
Like
sometimes
this week
twice.
alone, we went 3 times
We
this
went
week.
Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday.
So one was a screening, 2 we paid for, and so we just thought it was funny to not play the trailer this time because people are tired of this trailer.
So basically, it's a family. You see in the trailer, which hopefully you've seen it 5 times. The family is invited to spend the weekend in the country with lovely James McAvoy and his wife and their little son. And they soon realize...
Oh, no, sorry.
James McAvoy is his son.
You said it right.
Family has a daughter.
You said it right.
They're invited to come spend the weekend, and craziness begins to ensue. And they're like, something's not quite right here.
I think you said that partially wrong, but that's okay.
I did?
I think you made it... The way I heard it was you were talking about James McAvoy and his son, and then they said and they were invited.
They invited
the other people.
Yes, the family.
And this one makes it
family.
Yeah.
A husband and wife and
2
their daughter.
families that were on vacation.
There's an American family.
One invited the other family to come stay with them.
There's an American family. A mama, a daddy, and Agnes and her bunny rabbit, which you need to know.
Yes.
Her emotional support bunny rabbit. Not a real one, mind you.
Stuffed one.
It's a stuffed animal.
Okay, yeah.
This American
family
is living in London. They go to a little family retreat getaway.
They meet and befriend another couple.
In Italy. And these people are like, hey, we don't live very far from here. You should come to the English countryside.
Yes. Well, so what happens is, and at the first outset of that is like, my thought, and your thought as well, was like, why would you ever go stay with people you don't know?
Exactly.
But I will give this film props. It makes you understand is how you become friends with people on vacation or just in general day-to-day life. You meet somebody, you slowly start talking to them, you see them, and you become friends eventually.
Yeah, and I felt like this hotel or wherever they were in Italy was kind of like one of those small communal things where they had like communal dinner. So like one big dinner, everybody comes down, you sit at a table, you're assigned a table, kind of like when we were on the cruise ship, and they're like, hey, you're going to be assigned to a 6 top. And it was us and another group of friends, like us and another couple that we knew. And they were like putting us on an 8 table or a 6 top. And so with another couple. And the next day I was like, can it be just a table for 4, please? Yeah. And they changed us.
I don't like that.
Because,
it's like going hibachi.
Yeah. With people you don't know.
So before we saw this movie, we had never seen the original movie. We did make a point to watch it after we saw this movie. So we will talk about kind of the comparisons of the two.
We'll talk about both.
But they are both the same storyline. So it was an interesting.
Yeah, and I felt like this. Woo! Sorry.
I'm trying to do a show.
I know. Sorry.
It was an interesting journey to witness both films because while they're exactly the same films, they go in 2 different directions, which kind of made it for an interesting experience.
Yep. Yes, absolutely. So I enjoyed watching.
This will also open up the debate of the thought of most people like the originals more than the remakes. And I think in this case, there's a lot to be said for both films.
Yeah.
And it's a lot to be said of the changes made based on the audience you're presenting it to.
I think that's the very curious thing. And I went and looked up what you said, and it's very true. And it's really interesting how what we consider to be foreign, non-American audiences are more open, I think, cinematically. And I think we see it a lot because we watch a lot of Asian film or foreign films or Indonesian or whatever. The level of violence or gore or child trafficking or sexual trafficking or whatever, because it happens more frequently there,
I don't think it's that. No, I think
but I think
there's less of a
weird thing about
there's a less stigma, and there's also less censorship.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
But I think too, because those things happen, and I think we're still naive in thinking those things don't happen.
Well, I don't think that's what happens.
I think Americans are very sensitive.
I think that's the statement. I don't think it's the lack of happening here. I think American audiences are so like, oh, because there's so many people that still look at sex as something to be shameful about or embarrassed about. It's like if you watch TV here, you know, if you're on a normal channel, you don't see nudity, you don't hear cussing. You go to some other countries, what we think is a cable channel is just their channel 5.
Yeah, and it's a lot.
You know, a lot of countries, especially like Mexico, I believe it is, they show stuff on the news. It's graphic and it's violent. So I don't know if they still do, but they did for a long time.
Oh no, for sure.
Where here it's all edited down. Yes. You don't see things. They'd even if they said what you're about to watch is very hard, you know, hard to watch. You know, maybe you want to turn away from the screen, and then it's still an edited version of it.
It's still edited because I remember growing up. Like my parents would watch the news, and then it was like, hey, you have to go to your room and go to bed now because my dad was going to watch the Spanish news.
Yeah.
And Spanish news had people getting shot and blood and guts everywhere because they don't censor. But again, like I said, I feel like they're used to that happening there. It's unfortunately.
I just don't think it's that. I just think it's a mentality of censorship. I think they're like, if we're going to talk to you about stuff, we're going to show you the truth.
But I think it happens in life.
Which is
there
ironic.
are people they're getting killed or shot.
Oh, I know that. I'm not saying that.
But see, it happens here too. So why are we not showing it?
Because
I don't know.
Because we live in a country that is constantly editing itself.
I guess.
It's hiding things. It only wants it's that machine of we want you to see and believe what we tell you we want you to have. But if we let you see all these other things, and that gives you too much freedom of thought and opinion and whatever. So anyway, that's going to go into a very darker tone.
Sorry, we don't want to go there. But
so let's talk about the new film first before we talk about the other
one. Let me
go
to the correct trailer.
I was a little concerned because I saw this trailer so much. Of one, did it give too much away?
Yes.
Because you pretty much know who's the bad guys, who's not the bad
James. There's something wrong with James.
Yeah. And I was also concerned with. There's a couple of things revealed in the trailer, like, okay, well, did you just give a big reveal away? And then the other thing is, did I see the trailer so much I don't care anymore?
Correct.
I can actually say none of those things are a problem.
Oh, okay.
I still like the movie very much. Yes, there's some issues I had here and there. There's an element of, and I'm not going to say it on the off chance you've never seen the trailer or the other movie, in relation to their son's issues. But it's talked about like right at the beginning of the film. So it's not a surprise. Mm-hmm. It's part of the setup, if you will.
It's part of the story.
Yeah.
Whatever story that may be that you believe.
I will say I was very concerned stepping into this film about bad decision making. Because everything about this story was bad decisions.
We sit down right before the movie starts. He's like, okay, let's see how many dumb decisions these people make. And it is a little bit.
But I will give them credit. They did a lot of things that I can see why those people make those decisions. There's a couple they don't that are really just stupid. But there are a couple of moments of, if you really look at what's going on, like I saw one guy, although I don't usually care about what he says because most of the things he says are just stupid. But he came out as like, this movie is just filled with nothing but stupid, bad decisions. Clearly did not pay attention about actual life on how people can easily accept or get manipulated in certain ways of, especially if they're going through trauma or there's an emotional issue or they're looking for something that's missing in their life. They're more willing to, that's how cult people get people. And they bring them into stuff because they know this person's missing a father figure, or they know this person isn't making any money at their job or whatever, and they feed on that.
And I think too, Americans are so always concerned with being polite or not being seen as rude Americans that they don't say things sometimes, where other cultures will be like, well, that's crazy or whatever. Like I've known lots of people who are Irish or British or whatever, and they're just very direct, not meaning it in a mean way. And Americans are just like, Okay.
I will say the only really super unbelievable thing about this movie and the sequel, the remake, the original, excuse me, is there's an element about a vegetarian getting that vegetarian to eat meat. And I can tell you from perfect knowledge that vegetarians don't shut up about being a vegetarian, and they would not eat the meat. I don't care how guilty they were into it.
Yeah.
They would act like nutbags about it. So that part was a little off-putting, and I don't mean that attack on vegetarians, but if you want to know somebody's a vegetarian, they'll tell you.
Oh yeah.
So
they'll tell you all about it.
We have a good friend that's a vegetarian too, so that's kind of a poke at her. So
Sorry.
Not really, because she doesn't bother anybody about it. So she's a rare vegetarian I've ever met that doesn't tell you they're a vegetarian.
Yeah, she'll work around whatever.
Exactly. But yeah, so that was one of the few things that I was kind of, is joking aside, that I was like, I didn't really see them buying into it. But what I'll say, the difference between the two, it's sold as more of offensive, disgusting in the new one than it was in the original.
Yeah.
Because she takes it, but then she spits it out, and then the new one.
You see in the trailer.
The original, she's just like, and then it's kind of glossed over.
Yeah, which no, I had an issue with that. So on this one, I'm gonna say, I told you this, James McAvoy, we knew he was gonna be good.
He's fantastic.
He has the ability to transmorph. I don't know. Transform. Morph into. That Transmorphers is a real thing.
Transmorphers is a real. It is a real movie.
We'll talk about Transmorphers in a few weeks. The new
Lord.
Transmorphers, new Transformers. Anyways, but
would it be called Transformers? Uno.
Yes, but you know what? The little boy I thought in this movie was so good. And normally, they're like, I have a thing about kids and about child actors, but this little boy was so good in this movie. I think he was one of my favorite characters. And Dan, you're awesome. But he had more to do, I think, than the other little boy in the original.
Yeah, because they give the kids a little deeper story arc in this one.
And I like that. The girl was good too.
Yeah, this new one's about 20 minutes longer. And so they kind of in the discovery, and they give the kids more to do directly with the story. But this wouldn't have worked in the original.
Correct.
In the direction it goes.
Yeah.
It just wouldn't work. That's why it didn't work that way.
Yeah.
I was a little off-put by Mackenzie Davis and Scoot McNairy in the film together as a married couple, but that was only because I was a fan of them from *Halt and Catch Fire*, and so I just see them in the same show, and they were kind of rivals and partners and the same thing. So that was just my own. Took me a minute to get that thing, but it was also cool to see them back together.
Yeah.
I do have to ask you this because you have had a constant.
Oh no.
I
know.
What do you think I'm talking about?
About James McAvoy.
You're right. Very good. You always talk bad about him, like not necessarily his acting, but you always he always looks dirty and greasy.
He always looks like he doesn't wash his hair.
And I want to know what you thought about him in that aspect in this film.
He looks good, but if you look at him in real life, he looks like he doesn't wash his hair. That's fine.
I don't think he looks like he doesn't wash his hair in that picture.
It looks a little oily.
It looks like it's pushed back.
But no, you know what? Aside from that, in this one, he looks kind of gruff and dirty, but they live on a farm in the countryside. So that works for me.
Does he look like a man?
He looks manly, and I was just like, okay, I can work with that. It's awesome. But he was so good in this. But you know what? The other lady is too. His wife, Ainsley Francois, whatever you say, Francois, which some of you know from Game of Thrones. She was also in... what's that movie? I just looked it up. Hold on. Oh, The Nightingale, which I know some people watch. Oh, The Last Voyage of the Demeter. She was the main lady. So she's been in a bunch of things.
One thing I liked about him,
she was good, and they were good together.
They were great together. And what I liked about him in this, though, is there's you can see how this guy has so much charisma and could buy into how he could convince you to do things you would never do. But then there's these little subtle moments of his sinisterness coming out. Like there was one scene that I love it. Every time I love it. And I love when actors do this. And he's kind of smiling at something. And then he kind of goes from this thing to.
Yeah.
And it's just like a quiver of his mouth.
Very subtle.
Yeah. It's a quiver of his mouth that goes from a smile to a sneer. And it's like you can immediately see something's wrong with that person.
Yeah. Like that.
But then 5 minutes later, they have the most genius excuse of why they behave this way.
Yeah.
And one of my biggest beefs with this movie, goes into that bunny wrap situation. Is there's an element where it would have been kind of said and over. The movie would have been really boring. It would have been over.
I know.
But that bunny becomes a catalyst. But I'm like, no, what the? And why would you be okay because of what happened before that? But they had a genius explanation this new one that still would make me question, but their sanity. But I can now see. Oh no, okay, I see what we just walked in. Now I have a little more guilt, a little more sadness, and a little more like, am I at fault, kind of thing. And they did it in the original as well. In that one, it was a little more straight into the parents' fault. Mm-hmm. Where this one, they took some of their own responsibility through their own pain, pulled at the heartstrings while still blaming them.
Yeah.
And so it had multi-levels in the new one. The original was really more just like.
I do, yeah. And this one, there's a little bit more story too about the mom and the dad. And like you said, their issues then creates the feeling of guilt of this kid of what she's happening for the dang bunny rabbit. And I'm just like, no.
Well, and I think too, because this really all comes down to the dad, because he can't find a job. His marriage is struggling. He's starting to feel like a failure, and he's found this person.
And there's one moment where he just, I don't know what to do.
And he's found this person who is lifting him up.
James
making
McAvoy.
Him feel needed, making him feel loved, making him feel liked, making him feel like he's better, and then he's accomplishing something and he's doing the right thing. And there's one moment he tells him, "Was like, that was good parenting, good on you," and he's like, "Thank you."
Yeah, thanks. Nobody ever.
Even though it's really kind of snarky and sarcastic.
Yeah.
He's not seeing that, and then like you said, when he's finally to the point where he needs to be doing these things, he doesn't know what the hell to do.
He's just so
because he realizes he's still that weak person that has nothing.
And I think that's part of the catalyst of the whole movie.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing.
It's growth.
It is.
Of finding yourself. I will like this one, the new one does go a little more Hollywood-esque with its final act. It was good. I really still liked what they did with it.
Yeah, I thought it was
it's a little more action-packed, heavy, slasher film, victim on the run kind of thing, trying to survive. That worked. Whereas the original, it's a little bleaker. It's a little heavier. It's a little harder to watch on some level. So saying that, before I ask you my question, what did you think of the original movie, the ones we went back and watched it?
I really enjoyed the original one. For me, I felt like it was going too fast. Like some of the things happened too quickly. Whereas in the new one with James McAvoy and them, I felt like there was a little more time given to explain how these people could like suddenly feel like, yes, let's go to this strange house in the countryside, or like, this is weird, but okay, I'm going to let that slide. And then the next weird thing is like, oh, this is starting to feel uncomfortable, and a little more uncomfortable buildup. And the original is just kind of like 1, 2 things happen, we're out of here. So I felt like it happened too quickly.
I think it's a what's weird is both of them are a slow burn.
Yeah.
But you're right. The reactionary times or the reasoning behind stuff is glossed over. Whereas had you never seen this new version, the original version works fine.
Yeah.
And you would have still understood everything. But once you get that extra information, this makes I buy into this a little bit more now.
Well, then there are some really good things in this original. Is it Dutch or Danish or?
Danish.
There's some really good stuff in this, because there's some cultural things that I get more than on the, but I think that's what the difference is. It's the new one is this American people in a foreign country now go to a foreign countryside, whereas with the Danish one, it's like, oh, it's these people and these people, but we're still over here in the countryside. So
I think the original,
there's a little more understanding, whereas on the English side, it's like, oh, this is creepy.
I think the setting changes it too, because in the original, even though it's a little countryside house, it felt closer to society.
To people. Yeah.
Where the new one is like almost like a farm compound, way away from anybody. So any kind of thing can happen, and nobody would ever know about it.
You would never find it. That's what, and I think as an American, that freaks me out. Whereas these people, if they had been in the English countryside, they're like, oh, this is normal.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
I
we
think
talked
that's
about
what
the
adds
fact
a
that
layer
it
of
was closer to the house too, because like this in the original, it was like an 8-hour drive to get to where they were going to go.
Right.
Whereas in the other one, even though they lived in London now, it's still an 8-hour drive or wherever
It
they were
took them 2
going.
days.
But they also had to fly from a different country to actually live in London now.
Yeah.
So there is a misplaced fish out of water mentality.
Then the original one, I do like the direction they went with the kids, which they didn't necessarily do in the new one. And like you said,
I think there on a smaller level.
I think it's the American sensitivity and sensibilities of things that happen with children.
Yeah.
But these things happen with children. And then I think too, how it ends, I like how the original
Well, that's
ends.
what I was fixing. That was going to be my overall question is, which ending do you prefer? They're completely different endings.
Absolutely.
I will say, before I let you answer that, it was interesting how many scenes were identical.
Yes.
Like the visual style, the setup, the reactionary from the actors. It's like when the movie starts, up until probably about 20, 30 minutes into it, almost all of it's the same beat.
Yeah.
And then it starts getting little tweaks here and there.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you. I did like a lot more of the depth of the kids and a little more storyline of the new one.
Yeah. Now, if we had taken a lot of how the new one ends, all that back and forth and what's happening in the house and up and down and all that, combined it with how this other one ends, like
I don't know if it would have worked as well that way.
No, it would have been cool.
But I mean, I don't know if it would have worked with all that build up.
And then it's like,
But I think that's why this other ending works better, because it's such a
like
boom. It's kind of in your face. It just kind of happens.
Like boom, 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 and you're like, what just happened?
It goes from your hope and chance to psych.
And then when I told you how they were doing it, I was like, whoa, I haven't seen this ever, except one other time in a movie, and I was like, man, okay, we went there.
So you're preferring the ending of the original?
I prefer the ending of the original, but I like the children, how that worked in the original. But I like that we get more story. I like that it's an American family and new, because I think that creates a level of anxiety that only Americans can feel, because we're so anxious anyway, everywhere we go.
I'm very torn, because I'm always a fan of the unexpected endings.
Yeah.
Whether they're unexpected happy or insanely depressing.
Yeah,
I like the endings that make you go, whoa, shit, I didn't expect that to happen.
I did not expect that.
But I was initially upset with the ending of the original, because it has a great shot that I saw as right as this moment happens, the screen going black, and then it kept moving from there, and I'm like, ugh, you just lost me on that ending. But then they still went back to that same character and gave him a different kind of closure, and it still worked and it made sense so I was fine with it at that point. So it kind of redeemed itself, even though I didn't think that was necessary. But I'm leaning towards the original's ending just because of the shock value.
I'm telling you, I know.
And I'm the same way, as I like seeing the things we're not supposed to see.
Yeah.
Because there's a few different elements that we don't normally get to see in that sequence.
Because I was like, whoa, did that just happen? And you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like, that's different.
So anyway, both movies are fantastic.
Yeah. It's really good.
They're both slow burns. They're both infuriating on some level.
Yes.
They're both unnerving.
Let me just say, don't go to the English countryside with people you don't know in the middle of nowhere where there's no cell phone service.
Neither one of them are really horror films, more of a thriller.
Suspensey.
Yeah, I think they're both worth checking out. I would almost say watch the new one first before you watch the original, just because of the shocking nature of the original's ending may make you not want to watch the new one.
Right.
And they're completely different.
Yeah.
You can watch the original one on Shudder if you have Shudder, and I'm sure that you can rent it digital as well. And then, of course, the new one's in theaters now.
There you go. Check it out. All right.
And the biggest takeaway from this is not only is it a pretty decent movie, we don't have to see that trailer anymore.
Thank goodness. Or do we? Because it might still play.
Yeah, if somebody's really funny, they're going to keep playing this trailer every movie from now on.
Lord.
There was another trailer that popped up when we went to see this one. I was like, finally, we're going to see this. It would be crack up, because I told her going in, if they show the trailer for this movie when we go see this
in the movie, yeah,
I'm going to punch somebody in the throat. But there was another trailer popped up. I'm like, oh my god, this one now. This is the new one.
Yeah.
Anyways,
make sure you check out our website, HollywoodMatrimony.com. Go find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Blue Sky and Hive. And don't forget, we give away free things. Yes.
And as of now, this will be the last time you see all of these in one place because they will be changing it.
And because I keep being annoying.
Watchmen Chapter 1 animated, The Justice League Crisis on Infinite Earth Part 3 animated film, Horizon Chapter 1, If, Watchers, and Furiosa, a Mad Max saga.
I won't do
Just do it.
Furiosa.
This will be the contest. Furiosa will be ending this week so that I don't have to see her cast any more spells.
Thank you so much for watching. We will see you next